Well, hi everybody, and good evening. I guess we've been seeing a lot of each other lately. That's the nature of Gemini. In in the labors of Hercules, there are actually five parts to the Gemini labor, and I hope I'll be able to do some commentary on that during our meditation period for the actual full moon. Lots of things are coming up. Just to mention them a little bit, tomorrow at 5 p.m., the Attracting Money for Hierarchical Purposes. That's all GMT, Universal Time, Greenwich Mean Time, never changes. 8 o'clock, we'll have the pre-full moon in Gemini, and we'll be able to read a bit more of the last sermon of the Buddha, which the Christ is said to enunciate at every Gemini full moon. And then at 10 o'clock GMT, we will have, for those of you who are interested, the beginning of the third series of Identify as Being, and we'll be taking up the subject of the Absolute. I'm writing a book on the seeds of the infinite. It's about, 10,000 seed thoughts or more, or whatever. And we're going to be working through some of those seed thoughts and the implications. I've always found that Gemini is a good time to do that. Somehow, well, at least for me, I'm able to fathom a bit better and a bit more some of those abstract issues for some reason. And then in the morning on the 17th at 7 a.m. GMT comes actually not a webinar. What I've been talking about are webinars, but soon we'll have the broadcast on the full moon. I'll be leading that. Tuya is at the Arcane School Conference. It is World Invocation Day for all of us, so as much as we can say the great invocation out loud and with deep meaning, that's the day to do it, tuning in with our brothers and sisters all over the world who are using this World Invocation Day. I think it may have started in 1952 or something like that, right after, it might have been the year of the, can it be the year of the Great Decision? It might have been the year of the Great Decision. Every 49 years, the 6th degree initiates make up a kind of resolve to help humanity in a certain way, and it often brings what human beings would call a bit of a cataclysm, but it was an important time. So World Invocation Day on the same day as the full moon. Now, 2 nights ago, we went through the keynote of love, the hierarchically inspired love. Last night we went through resurrection, and tonight we'll deal with the contact, a closer contact with the Christ and with his hierarchy. So I'm very happy to see you all here. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the names this time, but I just want to I know who's here. I can see, and more will be coming, and I really welcome you so that we can work together on this meditation. And I'm kind of improvising a little bit with the meditation. I'm not strictly following the form. If you see the discrepancy there for any reason. And by the way, in terms of the upcoming links that you will need, they are in the chat box, okay? Except the link that is not in the chat box is our usual YouTube link, and then for the broadcast on Attracting Money for Hierarchical Purposes and the actual full moon broadcast, they are both on the YouTube link, so you don't need anything special. We always use the same one, and by now I think you know it, but maybe BL or Michael could put it in the chat box just in case you don't know the YouTube link for broadcasts instead of webinars. Alrighty, let us proceed. So this is the day we're looking at the idea of contact. Actually, we're all in contact all the time, where, you need boundaries, of course, to have contact. And so the truth of the matter is that since boundaries don't exist, and since we all actually are the boundless, immutable principle, the one and only whatever or something, we go back further than contact. We are into identicality. We are into identification. We are all, in a strange sort of way, if I can say it, superimposed upon each other, and we are the same thing. A lot of people might worry about losing their individuality in such a setup, and they certainly will. Eventually, there is no individuality. There's only one being forever, and with infinite variety within that one absolute infinitude. But that's a bit more for the 10 o'clock tomorrow night, when we return to Identify as Being and the third series of programs, which I hope will just continue for quite a while now. I don't think there's anything more to do than to go through all of these seed thoughts, which get us in the state of mind where we can begin to sense what reality actually is. And it's always a shock, I must say. It's always a shock. But let's see what we can do. We'll those of you who want to participate in that, you have the link to do it. So we begin with our withdrawal from the outer human being, and that's not just the body or the bioelectric field. The desires are part of the outer human being, and so are the thoughts. But we are the consciousness that is immersed within these presentations, you might say, within these different types of vibration. We are the soul consciousness immersed in them, and we pull back and we withdraw. The old Raja Yoga method, I have a body, but I'm not that body. I have my feelings and emotions, but I am not those. I have my many thoughts, but I am not those. Then what am I actually? I am the soul am I. It's very subtle. 1 minute you're on the outside, the next minute you're on the inside. And that's our goal, to focus the consciousness in this world of spiritual light, love, and power, or sacrificial will, leaving behind our preoccupation and our focus with the outer human being, which is simply the instrument for what we are internally. Sorry for these intrusions. I'm trying to figure out why they happen. Just ignore them if they happen. So I am the soul am I, and I live in a world of light. And I see my fellow disciples in the light. I live in a world of love, and the unity prevails. And I live in a world of sacrifice for the sake of the whole, and that's the true will. And I reach out to the men and women of goodwill all over the world. Every country has them. I seek to strengthen them. We seek to strengthen them. Their efforts to express goodwill. And further, we reach out to the members of the new group of world servers who are more concentrated in their service. And more experienced, shall we say, and we seek to strengthen them. And in fact, really, we reach out to every human soul, whether that soul is in the body, out of the body, every human being, however many billion there may be. And we realize that somehow we're all actually the same. It is a mantram, and we often use it. The mantram, naught is but me. So dwell with that just for a moment. Naught is but me. It's a very radical statement, and it means that we're not taken in by the form. Whatever we look at, we sense the isness of it, if I can call it that, which is somehow more important than the form and is identical with every perception. Naught is but me. And that has to be practiced in order to realize it. And the great substratum of being has to be registered, and then form will be seen as secondary. Now, on the higher levels, we find the brothers in the light. We find the members of the hierarchy who naturally focus within the spiritual triad, and we'll reach out to them in our thought and our imagination. We're saluting them, really, and we'll do it a little differently than we sometimes do. What we'll do is first visualize them, and then we will salute them and express our cooperation all at once. So we visualize the great Buddha, who has stayed with humanity, lo, these many years, even choosing to remain when he perhaps should have gone on and elsewhere. And our gratitude to him for all that he has clarified about life. And then the Christ, the head of the hierarchy, the Lord Maitreya, the Lord of love, even as the Buddha is the Lord of wisdom. Really, we have mind wisdom with the Buddha and love wisdom with the Christ. And he is the Savior at this time for humanity, the great Bodhisattva, and we want to help him in our own little way. So our gratitude, unfathomable gratitude really, to the unfathomable loving one, whose methods and intention we can not yet understand. We reach out to the Master Morya, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations, he who strengthens all disciples who think in his direction, and probably those who don't. Reaching out to Master Kutumi, the coming Christ of the age of Capricorn, and the one whose ashram is most involved in preparing for the reappearance of his brother, the Lord Maitreya, the present Christ. And we reach out to the Master Jwalkul, the messenger, who has externalized so much of the wisdom teaching for us through Blavatsky and through Bailey, and now coming again around the year 2025, the third outpouring. Our deep gratitude to the Master DK, and our own Master, whomever that may be. We either know or we think we know, or perhaps we are heading in a certain direction that is indicated to us towards a particular ashram and master. Our gratitude to our own Master, whomever. And finally, the entire hierarchy that works with humanity, our great gratitude to all of them for all that they do to bring the planet towards sacredness and to elevate humanity so it can play its role. And we'll sound the Om 3 times to express our gratitude to all these figures who are elevated entities, our gratitude and our solidarity and our willingness to work with them according to their methods for us. This is what we're expressing. And as well, we seek to be impressed somewhat by the purpose of it all, as understood in Shambhala. So we, as a group and with great humility, we imagine that we can come in line with the purpose as expressed by Sanat Kumara, just one tiny fragment of it perhaps, as this works out in the divine plan, and we can play a little role there, every one of us, at least a little role. So inwardly, a long silent Om as we come in touch with the energy of Shambhala, however attenuated that may be, however reduced, something of the purpose and plan, a long, grateful, inner, silent Om. And I think we will find that when we think of purpose and of being imbued by purpose, a tremendous strengthening occurs for us. You can feel it. And then we begin to, as it is said in the teaching, stand in spiritual being. So we have our alignment with group soul and with the elder brothers, and thinking of that great reality which only now has come to the attention of more people because it's possible, that the center we call Shambhala, where the will of God is known. So let us do everything we can to align with that will and be guided and driven by that will. In the air, the energies now of Mercury, the ordinary ruler of Gemini, and Venus, the esoteric ruler, and the field of service, the Earth. Without Gemini and Mercury, Venus, we would not be moving as we are, as rapidly as we are, and as rapidly as we must, towards becoming a sacred planet. These gods are real, these great entities, the Logos of Mercury, the Logos of Venus, and the Lord of the constellation Gemini. They are real. And as a group, at least, we are trying to come in touch with them a little bit. Our great God of love, our Solar Logos, who is a consuming fire of love, our God is a consuming fire, radiates throughout the solar system, and at this very second ray time, with the second ray festival of love, of goodwill, of the Christ, the second ray of Gemini, the second ray of the Solar Logos, and the impending second ray of humanity, they all blend together, reinforcing the second ray of this time. And so we can do a lot to resolve the conflicts here and bring the polar opposites together. The light of interplay is found in Gemini, as DK calls it, as you say here, a line of light beams revealing that which opposes, or the basic duality of manifestation, the relationship of spirit and form. It is the conscious light of that relationship and the ability to bring these opposites together. We see it in the zodiac. Aries Libra is brought together by Gemini, Taurus Scorpio by Gemini, Cancer Capricorn by Gemini, and so forth. And when Gemini and Sagittarius are involved, then Pisces, another great sign of fusion, a major second ray sign, brings Gemini and Sagittarius together. So the opposites unite. In so many places, a kind of abrasive idealism is prevailing, and the opposites are just fighting with each other under the influence of the sixth ray, without being able to see the other point of view. But when the second ray is applied, these opposites can be brought together. Under Gemini, we are reconstructing the world, the forces of reconstruction. Aries restores the plan. Taurus brings the forces of enlightenment in, so it can be all done in the light, and then the reconstruction of the necessary forms for the new civilization comes in under Gemini. In all this, we can participate and must. When people want to know what we're doing, well, we're doing many things, but the thing that should sink in the deepest for all of us is that we are working to make the divine plan a manifest actuality, right down onto the physical plane. And we have to find the way that is best for us to cooperate with that. Everyone will have his or her own way. The point of tension is growing towards the full moon, and we're realizing the reality of standing as a soul and recognizing the lower self. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. we have to learn to identify as interior beings, and we have to remove our identification from the outer, customary individual. We stand back and we use the instrument, one of the gifts of Gemini, to identify as the higher of the pairs of opposites. Now again, just the way Mercury and Venus cooperate when expressing the quality of Gemini, so it is that the Buddha, Mercury, and Venus the Christ cooperate. They are bringing together the East and the West into spiritual union. The two hemispheres of our planet, they bring together the opposites, which are found always in manifestation and can cause so much trouble as we can't really decide how to find the path between them that unite them both. But they are the brothers in the light. They are our teachers. And at this time, all during the higher interlude, but at this time we can be very close to them. They affect not only the individual, but very much the groups, and, of course, humanity as a whole. They're so close, there's such love and respect between them. Every festival of goodwill, every time it comes, every Gemini full moon, the Christ preaches the last sermon of the Buddha. Maybe it's in the Pali language, ancient language, but the meaning is all the same. And we ponder on some of the words from that last sermon. We're going to go more into it tomorrow. But these parts have to do with our overcoming of the obstacles through being strenuous, mindful, thoughtful. The Buddha was a powerful teacher, and he's got a lot of identification with the first ray. Second ray, soul on the wisdom line, with a subsidiary one, and a first ray personality. Rigor when you follow his way. And so here from the last sermon of the Buddha, which he gave, just before he voluntarily passed to higher work, a higher state, entirely consciously, speaking of us as disciples. And so also when he, the disciple, thinks, reasons, or feels, let him so regard his thought that being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, he may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the craving due to ideas, or to reasoning, or to feeling. There is a great curriculum enunciated. The cravings of the body overcome, the cravings of sensation overcome, and now cravings, desires arising because of the ideas, reasoning, or feeling generated within the disciple. Freedom from all of these required. And so also when he thinks or reasons or feels, let him so regard his thoughts that being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, he may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the craving due to ideas, or to reasoning, or to feeling. Whilst in the world, not in some disembodied state. And that's why it's often so important to take an initiation within the physical body, and so condition the brain and the cells and the atoms accordingly. So all of this has to be achieved whilst in the body. And these are the great overcomings to which the Buddha enjoins us. And we have to work rigorously, vigorously. Do we do that sufficiently? What have we overcome here? The problem is one of desire, and with his sixth ray mind, he came forth to help humanity solve that very great problem of desire, which would hold it to the phenomenal worlds and thus hold it in prison. And yet when you read what he spoke, even given the sixth ray mind, extreme simplicity and clarity for those who took down his words. It's just a question of us doing it and following through. The word craving suggests this gnawing desire that is conquering us rather than we it. And we have to be free of that, because these desires hold us into a bondage state. So who is the wealthiest man according to the Buddha? He who has the fewest desires, and especially the low desires, let us say. So, let us each affirm in ourselves the fact that we can be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful in the overcoming of the grief which arises from the cravings due to ideas or to reasoning or to feeling. And let us resolve to be so. We really have to understand that no one's going to give us what we don't earn, nor would we be able to absorb it if they did. So earning is to get ourselves in a state where true reception, true receptivity is possible, and it's a rigorous, demanding path. And we forget how rigorous it is. We forget it at our peril. If we, as he says, DK says, meander feebly down the years, doing a little of this and that, whatever we like, instead of really doing it. So let us have a profound gratitude to the Buddha, for all he has done to illumine humanity, illumine us, and we turn our attention to the Lord of the West, the Christ, perhaps closer to many of us in the West even than the Buddha, but really the synthesis of the two is what's needed. And here we with utmost heart-filled attentiveness, we listen imaginatively, inwardly, imagining that we hear the Christ sounding the great invocation, and we absorb this. He said to speak the invocation alone on each of the 3 days here which precede the full moon. So as if the Christ is sounding the great invocation. Well, there's something really magical about that, and the possibility of identification with the energy and the words of the Christ can be very strong. Now, this time, as we listen inwardly, this is our mode of participation. We imagine that we hear the Christ and the entire hierarchy intoning the third stanza of the great invocation, the stanza concerning the will. And so we listen and we see, as if the masters we know and those we don't, with the Christ and in perfect rhythm, are sounding this third stanza. And we contemplate deeply the significance of these words about the will and the purpose. We contemplate and we would have to ask whether in our lives purpose is guiding our little will, whether it is the purpose which the masters know and serve. It makes a great difference to live a life guided by such a purpose or not. So we have participated imaginatively with the Christ on behalf of humanity, sounding the invocation, and the entire hierarchy sounding the third stanza, we can call it, or the third section. And we remember now the keynotes, the major point of our meditation tonight. And really it's very, very simple, simply stated anyway. The keynote of contact, of a closer relation between the Christ and his people, between the hierarchy and humanity. Now, these are not just abstractions, and we certainly do know and will know in our own lives when that closer contact has been begun or established. The Christ is overshadowing his disciples, and he calibrates how close he can come according to their condition. You know, in the life of Krishnamurti, it was a very painful, ongoing process, agonies, as this purification of the Christ's very close approach to him occurred. Contact. The closer relation between the Christ and his people, between the hierarchy and humanity. The keynote of contact, of a closer relation between Christ and his people, between hierarchy and humanity. And we have to learn, I think, to assert the fact of the reality of these great beings, entities, sources. DK discusses what it means to do that when discussing that first ray word of power. I assert the fact, the reality of these factors is so necessary for the consciousness to grasp. Otherwise, it's just words. So the reality of it all. So we can envision then that we and all human beings will come into an ever closer contact or relation with the Christ and his hierarchy. We imagine the reality of this contact, what it will bring in terms of the expression of the will to good upon our planet. Contact and the will to good. And we will know the difference between real contact and that kind of abstracted, verbal, conceptual stating that these great beings exist, but not really being in touch. We will know the difference. So we open ourselves to impression and attempt to feel deeply that this contact is increasingly a fact on the planes of the soul and the spiritual triad, and may they be a fact also in the lower areas where we live as personalities. And we affirm our solidarity with the Buddha, the Christ, and the assembled hierarchy, and in our own way, however that may be, we seek to identify with them and to merge our purpose with their purpose. And as we merge the best we can with the energy and the will and purpose, intention of these great beings. We do in our heart and mind. We bless the world, we bless the kingdoms of nature, we bless humanity. And we pause just for a moment of appreciation for the illumined, loving energies of the constellation Gemini, and we feel ourselves imbued with these energies, which are growing in strength as the time of the full moon approaches. And together, as if we are in union with the Christ in his hierarchy, let us sound together the third stanza, or the third section here of this great invocation from 1945, sensing that it is the will of God that Shambhala, the Christ hierarchy, humanity, may come into true and real contact, and because they still have somewhat to do along that line, and may thereby cooperate in the redemption of the planet, and we with them as our contact increases. And so, from the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. Well, friends, now we have completed a little deeper penetration into the three keynotes: love, resurrection, contact. Tomorrow we'll work more at this Same time with the last sermon of the Buddha, so profound, maybe a little more astrologically. Then we'll have this philosophical approach for those who are interested. It'll be at 10 o'clock GMT, p.m. Then in the morning, we'll have the broadcast of the full moon in Gemini, maybe with some work and the labors of Hercules, such encounters Hercules had with Nereus and Taeus and Bucyrus and Prometheus and Atlas. Do they all end with S, it seems? So still, we're building up our point of tension. Let's build up that power through focused, immovable will to penetrate into the energies which are available. We'll make this available to you as soon as we can, getting it at least on Makara. As for our broadcasts, they go automatically on YouTube and come onto Makara later. So, lots of love, many blessings, and we have work to do tomorrow, really 3, well, I guess it's 1 broadcast and 2 webinars. So thanks for working together on this. It takes the group, and I'm sure we're accomplishing something interiorly for the welfare of humanity and its consciousness. I'll see you soon, and let's recognize that other self and keep growing and glowing. See you then. Bye-bye.